All right, for those of you at home, bell ringer, describe the 4 goals of psychology. Again, you can write it down in Note app, Google Doc, Word Doc. If you want to write in your notes, that'd be great too. Give you about another minute to finish up here. All right, let's go over this. Okay, describe the 4 goals of psychology. All right, what's the first goal? What is that first one? Z, what do you got, man? Description. What is description?
It's describing or gathering information about.
Yeah, all right, good. Good job. So you're gathering information usually through observations, right? Good job. So you're obtaining, you're understanding what someone's doing through these observations, and you're describing them. You're writing them down in a notebook, right? You might be on your iPad or your Surface Pro, right? The keyboard that connects magnetically. I'm just kidding. Yeah, good. All right, what's the next one here? What's the next one? Next goal. What do you got, Sarah?
Explaining.
Yeah, good job. Explanation. And what is that? Describe that a little bit.
So that's like explaining what the issue is, like what it's stemming from, and trying to think of how to like fix it based off of
Good work. So you're trying to explain the behavior, right? You're trying to explain the observations that you just observed. And what falls in explanation? What are those 2 terms that are very important that we talked about yesterday just a bit?
nature versus nurture.
No, we're going to talk about that a little bit today. But Michaela? Yeah, good job. Hypothesis and theory. Good work. So a hypothesis is what? What is a hypothesis? Hannah? All right, so an educated guess, right? Yeah, so this is an educated guess before we go through the scientific method, which we'll talk a little bit about today. And then what's a theory? Campbell, what's a theory?
Isn't it like a proven something like based on data?
Yeah, good job. So it's proven through research, through that scientific method, where that hypothesis was once an educated guess. Through research, through experimentation, we can prove that hypothesis, which will become a theory. Good. All right, next one. What is the next goal, the third goal? Michaela? Prediction, good. And what is that? Good job. So predicting the future behaviors that person or thing, right, or animal, whatever it is, organism, let's just say that, how they might behave, okay, depending on what treatment we give them, right, depending on if they continue these actions, these behaviors, their personality traits, what might happen in the future. Good job. And then finally, what's the last one? What is the last one? Last goal. Campbell, what's the last one?
Influence.
Influence.
So how you can change the behavior in a helpful way.
Good job. Good job. So how we can maybe change that behavior, obviously for the benefit. And that's where applied psychology, applied science takes toll, where we can apply the research that we've just conducted, okay, where you can apply these practices to try to help benefit a behavior or a personality. Okay, it might be through different types of, like with therapy. Okay, it might be anything like that with treatments. Good. Is there any questions on the 4 goals of psych? We good with that? All right, cool. How's your sister doing?
Good.
Yeah, where's she at now? Where's she studying?
Penn State School.
Oh, nice. Does she drive out there every day?
Well, right now they're online.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And when she goes back, she only has like 2 classes in person. So,
Really?
yeah,
Nice. Cool. What's she taking up?
business.
Oh, okay. Cool. We'll tell her I asked about her.
Oh, yeah, I will.
Yeah. All right. So next, the activity from yesterday. Can't wait to hear these. All right. The activity from yesterday, the 4 goals of psych. You're supposed to come up with a personality or disorder, right? Personality disorder could be a phobia, whatever it might be. And you're going to go through the 4 goals of psych of how to help this person out. And it could have been an animal, whatever you wanted to do. Sarah, we'll start with you. We'll go right around the room. Yeah, describe it. So what was, so who's coming into your office, I guess?
I said it was someone with like pretty fast, like generally.
Okay. All right. So stress, anxiety, form of depression, maybe. Can't find an exclamation mark on the keyboard, right? No, I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. Okay. All right. So go through the 4 goals here. What's the first one?
First, I would ask them about like the roots of the stress. Like first, I would obviously ask what it is, and then I'd learn that it's stress because they explain that to me.
Yeah.
But then I would try to find like have them explain why they're stressed. You know, like the roots of the issue, what activities or events make them stressed out, and then obviously explain like what could happen if it's not handled and like it could kind of lead to why it needs to be fixed. So like, it could lead to like depression, anxiety, maybe like suicidal thoughts, stuff like that.
Okay.
And then, in terms of like influence, figuring out how to deal with the events or the activities that make them stressed, like work or school and stuff like that. Figure out how to maybe alter how they handle it or what they do to kind of to remove some of the stress without like messing up their day or their schedule or anything like that.
Yeah. Okay. Good job. So how would you maybe do that? How would you try to reduce the stress? What would you give that person maybe?
I mean, maybe medication.
Okay.
I don't know if that would be a requirement, or just like figuring out each individual. If it's like a whole conglomeration of this stress because of multiple different things. Sometimes people just talking about it.
Yeah.
Sometimes you don't think of something until you're talking about it or discussing it, and then once you know, maybe trying to break it down into smaller pieces and figure it out.
Yeah, good job. So I'm trying to find a solution, right? Just talking it out. Maybe a stress doll I can squeeze in or whatever. Punch in a Bobo doll. Who knows? I'm just kidding. Yeah, anything. Maybe it's just joining extracurricular activity. Okay, with the helping with the stress. Like you said, you don't want to change your schedule too much though, because it could be a workload stress. Who knows? Yeah, good. Good job. Good job. All right, Michaela, you're next. So what was the well, who was the person coming in? What were they feeling? Was it a phobia? Was it stress? Okay.
In my vision, he has been feeling very stressed lately. He's also finding himself myself. I believe he's feeling this way because he might be overwhelmed with school. He said he's always struggled with school and now she's feeling. If he keeps feeling more stressed than he expected, he will probably. A tip I would give him to feel less stressed is when he set small goals for himself.
All right, good. Good job. Is this TC? No, I'm just kidding. He does good in school. Yeah. You should maybe talk about him with the Bills. Get him calmed down for the big game this weekend. Yeah. Yeah, good job. So is stress with schoolwork. I know that's a big thing, especially with a lot of students. How do you solve it? So the observable events you have is obviously maybe how he reacts or how he acts around an assignment being. I know whenever I assign something like a quiz or a paper, oh man, oh gee, dang it. You hear the size of upset, people being upset. Yeah, so setting small goals for that person is a good idea. So maybe it's just completing an assignment and then moving forward to maybe another one, and setting time aside where they can maybe have a tutor and help them achieve some of their objectives they need to get done. Good job. All right, Campbell, you're up.
Well, I also get stressed.
Oh
so-
my gosh, everybody's
Okay.
stressing out.
So I'm a student that's like stressed with like balancing school and sports extracurriculars.
Okay.
So for observe, I said like look at what they're involved in and what like it looks like, and then explain like why those are the most like stressing parts of the day. And then my prediction was that like if the person is continuing to be stressed, like they may experience burnout or like stop being involved in anything. My influence would be to become better at time management or decide what activities like they want to put the most effort in and drop the other ones.
All right, good job, good job. Yeah, so balancing workload, that's for sure. It's stressful. I mean, with school, extracurricular activities, it could be work after school then, right? After your clubs or whatever sports you play, right? How we can maybe solve some of these issues. And time management, that's a good one. Organization, okay, that's a great way for your influence, your last goal. Good. All right, Z, you're up, man.
I did depression.
Okay, all right.
And for the description, I'm basically going to list some more common things that you can physically see in a person that's suffering from depression, such as their movements, how they take care of themselves, and their mood.
Okay.
And then explanation, you would talk to them, see through something that happened, like if something traumatic happened, like very close to that. The prediction is saying how eventually, if they don't end up getting themselves help, how they can affect relationships with others they have, or how they can integrate themselves even more.
All right, good.
And then for influence, I said how they have with the people they have relationships still with, how they will be there to support them, and that there are still things.
All right, good job. Good job, Z. I like that. That was awesome. Hopefully that wasn't you this year with watching the Penn State Nittany Lions play. I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. Yeah, they struggled this year, buddy. They got to get back on track here. But yeah, good job. So that was great. Good work. So reaching out to peers, family members, friends to try to solve some of these issues and work through it. All right, Hannah, last one here.
I did relationship problems,
Relationships.
and I kind of did bullet points.
Oh, okay.
Like for description, like because someone lost connection with somebody that they were close to. They could be distant. They don't talk on a regular basis. He's in like they could be in another relationship and taking care of somebody else.
Oh,
For explanation, I'd have seek the problem, like like
why they might do this. I had, because they could have problems with their father or stuff, when I have, that they may not know how to explain their emotions. That doesn't open up for prediction. I said it could make someone have trust issues in a relationship later on, and the other person could be scared to open up to somebody else. And an influence I have communication.
All right. Yeah. Good job. Good job. Relationships. I won't say it again. From The Office. Yeah. Good work. Good work. Yeah. So communication, that's key, right? Especially with relationships. And if it's long distance, like you mentioned. Oh man, couldn't imagine. All right. So 4 goals. I think we're good with that, right? Okay. So I'll let you work on vocab for how about 3 minutes, and then we'll move on today. We'll talk about the scientific method, and we'll talk about phrenology, and pseudo-psychology. Okay. All right. I'll let you guys work on that for now. Like I said, 3 minutes. How about it? How about 4 minutes? We'll go to 11:20, and we'll move on. So is your sister maybe looking to go to main campus then?
No, she's only going for associates.
Oh,
She's
okay.
supposed to graduate this spring, but she doesn't know what she wants to do.
Oh, I got you.
So,
Nice.
I don't really know.
Yeah. All righty. Okay. So I'd like you guys to open your online textbook to page 14. Let me check what that is on the PDF. Well, we'll read it together. No worries. I just want to introduce the topic here today. So 14. Let me bring that up. That is general information. On the PDF, that is, let's see here, 26. 26. All right, so exploring psychology. Who would like to read that? Go ahead, Campbell. Exploring psychology. Science of skull bumps. Skull bumps? What is this all about? Go ahead.
SS was sent to the state prison for 5 years for assault and battery with intent to kill. Before his mind became deranged, he exhibited great energy of passion and purpose, and they were all a low character for soul bearing being to prove his own superiority as a The drawing shows a broad, low head corresponding with such a character. The moral organs are exceedingly deficient. If the higher capacities and endowments of humanity were ever found coupled with such a head as this, it would be a phenomenon as inexplicable as that of seeing without eye or hearing without ear.
Oh my, what does that even mean? What does that even mean? So phrenology, we're going to talk about that today. It was a study done, say, 1700s, 1800s, all the way up into the beginning of the 1900s, where people would feel the top of other people's heads, as weird as that sounds, and try to predict behaviors and understand how people act and their personalities. How strange does that sound? You think that works, Sarah? What? Come on. Are you disproving it? Yeah, all right. So actually, in some ways, which we'll talk about, phrenology helps psychology and helps studying different parts of, well, I don't want to give it away. It helps studying psychology, okay? And we'll talk about that today with phrenology and how pseudo-psychology, in some ways, helps benefit the way we study the mind and the rest of the body. Okay, so real quick, finish it up here, the paragraph right below. Go ahead, Hannah.
In the 1800s, Marmaduke B. Sampson wrote the account above to explain why crime occurs. According to Sampson, the behavior of SS was to direct result of the shape of his head. Phrenology, the practice of examining bumps on a person's skull to determine the person's intellect and character traits, became an important practice in the United States in the mid-1800s. Although this
Pseudoscience.
pseudoscience may appear ridiculous to us, modern scientists credit phrenology for encouraging study into the role of the brain in human behavior. Phrenology may have inspired scientists to consider the brain instead of the heart as responsible for human behavior.
Good work, good work. And then on the other page here, the next page down, 27, there's a picture of how people kind of describe phrenology. But for some phrenologists, it depended on the individual that came in. So some of these bumps, some of these grooves might have had a different characteristic trait. Who knows? It's ridiculous, I think. But that's what many people did. That's the way they try to predict behavior and character traits in the mid-1800s. There's a movie that actually had phrenology. I was trying to find the clip. I need to remember it. Maybe I'll show it tomorrow when I remember it. And it's just this woman who had a big crush on this one doctor. And she's like, I'm a phrenologist. And he's like, oh, what's that? And then she starts feeling his head. And she had a crush on him. So she was just talking about his character traits and talked about some other things that maybe she shouldn't have said. But it was funny. It was funny. It was just kind of knocking on phrenology in a way. It's like, all right, buddy, come on. There's no scientific proof behind this. All right, so moving on here. PowerPoint. And bring this up. All right, so make sure you guys remember this for an assessment coming up. Maybe for next chapter, maybe for a quiz or a test for this chapter yet. But next chapter, we're going to be talking about different types of study and research in psychology. So you're going to see it appear in the next chapter as well. But the scientific method, you guys should know this already. All right? It might be different from what you guys are used to, but the scientific method, make sure you remember it. It's very, very important. Okay, especially with research. Maybe you'll have a research paper in here. Ooh, maybe. We'll see. That'll be fun. It'll be fun. All right, so the first step, you got to make an observation, right? Okay, you got to make an observation. And what goal does that fall under? Sarah, what goal does that fall under? Make an observation. Yeah, description. Good job. So you have to make an observation. You have to detail, take note of what a person might be doing, or an organism, an animal, right? Okay. Then you ask a question. So why does this person, this thing, do the things they do, right? Why do they have a personality the way they have? Why do they act the way they do? Right? Whatever question it might be. And then you form a hypothesis that answers that question. And what does that fall under? What goal? Go ahead, Mikhail. Explanation. Good work. All right, so yeah, formulate that hypothesis after asking the question, and then you that hypothesis is going to try to figure out why these people act the way they do, why they might have a characteristic that they have. Okay, and then you make a prediction based on that hypothesis. So obviously that is what? Prediction, that goal. Okay, there you go. So that prediction is going to continue with your research, your experimentation. So you got to take this question, you got to take whatever hypothesis you formulate, and you got to go through an experiment to see if it's actually proven or not. So then you do the experiment, okay, to test that prediction. So whatever it might be, okay, again, I'm going to probably have you guys next chapter come up with an idea that you want to try to test out. Okay, it might be maybe a survey or an idea of how students like iPads here at school. Something as basic as that. Maybe it's something with improving the sports or athletic fields. Or maybe updating some of these desks here. They're a little old. What do you think? I think so. All right. And then you analyze the results, okay? So once you have that experimentation done, once you go through that experiment, you need to analyze your results, analyze your data, okay? And once you have that, if the hypothesis is correct, you report your results, you report your findings, okay? And then if it's incorrect, you got to try again. You got to go back up to the hypothesis. But this is missing one part. What do you think it is? Missing one part. What do you think it is? Go ahead. Okay, yeah, formulating conclusion. Yeah, that kind of falls in with report results. That's good. Maybe we can add that in there too. What do you think? So to try to eliminate any confounding variables, any results that might skew your data, what should you do with your study and your experiment? Again, replicate it, right? You got to duplicate it, okay? So maybe you should probably add that right before you report your results, okay? Right before you report your results. You want to replicate your study. You want to replicate your hypothesis, okay? Well, your experiment to try to prove your prediction. Because again, there could be a confounding variable that you missed the first time around. Maybe there's some important information in the experiment that you left out, right? Okay. All right, so the empirical approach, that kind of falls in line what we just talked about with the scientific method. It follows those 4 goals of psychology that I detailed and talked about yesterday. That's very important moving forward, okay? We always need a description. We need to make observations, right? We need an explanation to some sort of behavior with a hypothesis, a theory, then hopefully we can prove it through experimentation. All right, we need prediction. We need to try to predict behaviors, okay? And to try to test those predictions, we need the experiment, right? And then finally, okay, we need the influence, how we can try to influence or help those behaviors moving forward. or improving characteristics, personality, whatever it might be. So empirical approach falls in line with that scientific method. Set of standards that we need to follow when going through an experiment. Right? We'll talk about ethics and research next chapter, okay? And we'll talk about certain experiments that maybe crossed ethical codes and guidelines, right? That obviously we probably shouldn't repeat. Okay, that's why we look at it. That's why we study them, so we don't repeat these same things that happen. All right, so pseudo-psychology. What we're just talking about was phrenology a little bit. So pseudo-psychology is just phony, unscientific psychology. And this is kind of what many people think of psychology, especially my grandparents, especially. When I was telling my grandma, she would be 92 now, I was taking psychology in college. She's like, what? What are you doing? Palm reading, zodiac signs? Like, no, that's not it at all. She obviously didn't understand a little bit more how it advanced over time. But pseudo-psychology with palm reading, zodiac symbol, I'm sure you guys do those zodiac signs, right? I know on Twitter I see it all the time. Oh, my zodiac symbol is telling me I'm going to have a good day today. It's going to tell me I'm going to fall into some money later on. I don't know, something like that. I'm sure you see that a lot often. But with pseudo-psychology, it's just a idea. I won't even call it a science. It's more just based off of intuition, right? Emotion, okay? Especially with these mind readers, right? These palm readers especially, okay? But you see them all over the place. You see them in New Orleans, right? You see them, especially New Orleans. You see them in bigger cities where people actually kind of believe in this. Right? In some cases, that's really the only way they can feel better about a certain situation. Especially people that have pre-existing conditions, right? People that are going through maybe some disease or illness. Sometimes you need a boost, and maybe in spirits or emotions, personality, and that's the only way to go, especially with what science can maybe offer us today. Does that make sense, guys? Okay. So phrenology, I already talked about it a little bit and discussed it. But pseudo-psychology, or phrenology with pseudoscience, it's just that idea of feeling the bumps on their heads. And throughout the 1800s, this was a big thing. Okay, people thought this was actually a benefit. People actually thought they could predict behaviors and personality traits and characteristics by just feeling the top of people's heads. Sounds ridiculous, doesn't it? Yeah, it does. It does. There's actually a funny story. You guys all know Mark Twain. Yes, no, maybe so. Huckleberry Finn? Yeah, okay. So Mark Twain actually tried to debunk phrenology, and it's just a quick story. He went into a phrenologist, and the phrenologist didn't know it was Mark Twain. Okay, so phrenologist felt the top of his head, told him a bunch of characteristics, personality traits that he might have, maybe some future personality traits that might appear in his future. Okay, and tried to tell him who he was. And the guy didn't know who Mark Twain was at the time, but he actually detailed and said, "Oh, you're not a great writer. You're not a great, you're not a great creative mind." Twain's just like, "Oh, okay, what the heck? This is ridiculous." So he leaves. Okay, the guy obviously didn't know who he was and didn't recognize him. So he goes back later. He kind of like cuts his hair. He shaves his mustache, his beard off, whatever it might be, and he tries to make himself look different from what he did before the first time. So he goes back in. Phrenologist tests him, feels the top of his head, and gives him a different report. Gives him a different personality characteristic traits that he said before. Okay, he did this 3 or 4 times, actually, the same phrenologist. And every time he came back, there was a new report. There was a new personality trait, characteristics that he had that he wasn't told before, or was totally different than what he heard before. I thought that was an interesting story, just because we all kind of know who Mark Twain is and how phrenology he was trying to debunk it and deface it. But we know that this doesn't follow a scientific method, right? This doesn't go through an experiment. This doesn't create a hypothesis. This doesn't try to improve your results by replicating a study. You're just kind of willy-nilly feeling the top of people's heads like a weirdo in a way. Right, Sarah? Would you do it? Would you go get your test? Will you get your head tested out? That would be weird, I think. The only people who are touching my head are people who are cutting my hair, I guess. That's about it. All right, so with the negative effects, obviously it doesn't follow suit with the scientific method, right? There's no way we can try to experiment this. There's no way we can try to prove if this actually works. It doesn't. It doesn't. But at the time, that's what people thought. But one good thing, one positive with with phrenology and pseudoscience was that it pushed more people to study the mind, study the brain. Okay? We'll talk about this more tomorrow, maybe Monday. The history of psychology, they thought people's personality, their traits, their characteristics, their behaviors came from their soul, from their inner feeling in their heart. Okay? And we'll talk about the Cortez a little bit more, like I said, maybe Monday or tomorrow. And this is what people actually believe, where behaviors, personalities came from. Your inner soul, your heart, your spirit, not your brain. No one understood what's up there at all. Okay. But with phrenology, like I said, one benefit is it pushed more people to study what the brain was all about, what functions it has. And we all know today, we're studying the brain and anatomy, okay, with different forms of technology, where information's processed, where memory, emotions stored, right, within our brain, how we react to certain things, okay, our functions, our balance, right? It's all stored within our brain, okay? So phrenology helped out that way, right? So it's not totally hogwash, right, Sarah?
I think the idea of it is
Yeah, there you go. There you go. All right, one last thing. Facilitated communication. So this was something that, especially in the early 2000s, 1990s, 1980s, mentally handicapped people, they couldn't communicate. That couldn't communicate. Facilitated communication was a way for these people to try to communicate with others and answer a few questions, let's say. And I actually remember in elementary school, this kind of happening with one of my classmates. And it's almost like a Ouija board in a way, okay? And the facilitator would guide the students' hand to certain letters to spell out maybe a sentence, form a sentence, or spell out a response, okay? But after time and putting this to the test, this didn't actually work, okay? This didn't actually really represent a good way of how, let's say in this case, mentally handicapped people that couldn't speak. This wasn't a great way of trying to really understand how they can communicate, because they're actually not moving their hand around around the letters, but in a way that's what they thought would work. Okay, that's what they thought was an emotional personality response to certain questions, and this was the best answer that they had. But when it was put to the test through the scientific method, it didn't work. It doesn't work. Okay, and we'll talk a little bit more about a certain situation with a horse that could do mathematical problems more next chapter. His name's Clever Hans. That's interesting. It's kind of funny how he tried to tell mathematical equations. But anyway, I thought that was interesting. Okay, although it's maybe a great way to try to help people with mental disabilities communicate, it just doesn't actually work. And I actually remember it being done in school not too long ago. All right, is there any questions on that, guys? We good? We're good on the 4 goals. We good on the scientific method, good on phrenology, pseudo-psychology, pseudoscience? Okay, awesome. All right, that's all I have for today. That's all I have.